Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning from wherever you are. We have just opened up the session, so let's just give everyone a few minutes to arrive. I can see the participants going up.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Hello, if you're just arriving, welcome. You are here for Becoming Hungarian with helpers here today. And let's just give everyone one more minute to join in. There is a Q&A functionality, so you can use that, but you might want to wait until the end because Vivien will answer, I'm sure, a lot of your questions while the webinar proceeds. All righty, we have about 33 people here so far. What do you think, Vivien? Should we wait another minute or?
I think we should wait, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
All right, we will wait another moment. So, welcome to everyone. Happy December. I hope Mikulash was good to everyone over the past weekend. I see Jules. We've already got our first question. Jules was like right on that. Welcome. And while we just wait for other people to arrive, Jules, I'm actually going to answer your question right now while we wait, which are what are the risks of becoming a Hungarian citizen for tax exposure? With most places, Hungary has a double taxation treaty simply because if you lived here. However, just because you're a Hungarian citizen does not mean you have to pay tax. It's only the US that taxes on people's worldwide income. So Hungary does not apply those similar rules. So, welcome everyone. We're going to just wait another minute. Vivien and I really thank everyone for taking the time today to join us.
I think we can start if you want.
Perfect. So, again, welcome everyone. For those of you who know me, I am Anikó Woods, and for those of you who don't know me, I am still Anikó Woods. I run a website and a platform called How to Hungary, and I will be your host here today. And I could not be happier than to introduce Vivien Tóth. She is the citizenship expert from Helpers Hungary. She will be the one presenting to us today, answering your questions, giving you confidence about how to move forward if you're interested in Hungarian citizenship. So the only other thing I wanted to let you know before Vivien gets started is that there are some questions that I know that are going to be super specific to individual cases. So for cases like those, or for those of you who are ready directly to proceed with getting your citizenship underway, you can book a consultation directly with Vivien Tóth right after this webinar today. We'll send you out a link and you will have a discount for that 1 hour consultation. So, really excited, 20% discount, mind you. So, it's a fabulous opportunity to have that one-on-one time with her afterwards. So, now, again, welcome both from me from How to Hungary and Helpers Hungary. And let's hear from Vivien.
Thank you, Anika, for the introduction. I would like to welcome everyone as well, especially the ones who are in different time zones and they have the very early morning. Thank you for being here, and let's start today's session. Let me talk to you about the agenda of today. We will discuss how you can become a Hungarian citizen, and more specifically that how you can become eligible for citizenship, what you can win if you have a Hungarian passport, also what kind of challenges you will have possibly during the citizenship journey, and also we will talk about a little bit about the Hungarian language. So let's start with the pathways, how you can become Hungarian. The first is the easiest and the simplest way is that you can become a Hungarian citizen by birth. Meaning, if one of your parent was a Hungarian citizen at the time of your birth, you are automatically eligible for Hungarian citizenship. However, there is paperwork, so it's not just like you were born and you become automatically a Hungarian citizen. You still need to do the paperwork, a lot of paperwork. The next option is that you have someone in your direct family line who was Hungarian. It's very important to mention that it doesn't matter if someone who was born in the 1800s or even in the 1700s. If you have at least one ancestor who was born in Hungary or in the former Hungarian territories, you become eligible. Also, you can become a Hungarian by marriage. It means if you marry to a Hungarian citizen, and if you also live in Hungary, after 3 years of marriage, you are eligible for Hungarian citizenship. If you live abroad but you are married to a Hungarian citizen, then after 10 years, you can try to get your Hungarian passport. If you have at least one child, after 5 years, you can go and try to get your Hungarian citizenship as well. But also there is an option for the ones who doesn't have Hungarian roots. It means that you need to live here and at least for 8 years. And it's very important that 8 years with an address card. Without an address card, the 8 years doesn't count to stay in Hungary. So you need to have an address card at least for 8 years, and also you need to prove that you are living in Hungary, meaning that you are working here, you have an address, you are contributing to the society. So that's how you can become a Hungarian citizen. Every case is different. Every case is unique because the process can change from a date or from a marriage or from something. So that's why we have a consultation service where we can discuss with everyone specifically what do they need to do and what will their process be. Anikó, what was your process since you are a Hungarian citizen already? Could you share some experiences about this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there are a lot of people out there that are probably just like me. So I am a dual citizen, Canadian and Hungarian. I got my citizenship in 2015, and I did get it by birth. My father and mother are both Hungarian, although we'll come back to my mother's story in a minute. But my father was very clearly a Hungarian citizen at the time of my birth, so I was able to apply through him. And I was lucky enough that when I did this, he was alive and well and able to help me with that application. So that certainly made things a bit easier for me. I know for some people, it would have been a real challenge, like definitely if my dad hadn't been around. But it's worked out really, really well for me. Obviously, I am here living in Budapest now for over 8 years. So I took advantage of the dual citizenship in a way that I'm sure some people aren't even planning to. I went all in, and now I live here, work here, and zero regrets. Now, before we forge ahead, I just wanted Vivien, for some people, in case they haven't heard, you talked about an address card. Now, for those of us living here in Hungary, we know what an address card is. But before I moved to Hungary, I didn't really understand what an address card was or why we needed it. I mean, I've lived in Canada and the US for most of my life, and we certainly don't have that. But here in Hungary and other places in Europe, but specifically here in Hungary, we all have a card that has our official address where we live. So it's one piece of our ID, like a driver's license, like your identity card. It is a very specific piece of ID. And that is only available to permanent residents as well. I just think, is it just permanent residents? Do EU citizens, I believe, get that type of card, correct, Vivien? So
Yes.
this is why. So if you were interested in Hungarian citizenship by naturalization, when Vivien talked about having that address card, that's the thing she meant. Once you land and live here, you would be issued it. It's not something you have to worry about if you're living abroad. Uh, so
Exactly.
that's my little story in a nutshell. I have more to tell you about later, but why don't you continue on, Vivien, and give us some more real information?
All right. Before we go into the details, let's talk about why it's good to have a Hungarian passport. I'm sure that you can share your contributions to this, Anikó, as well, but a little bit later. Let's talk about first that you can visit many countries with a Hungarian passport without a visa. It means that if you figure out in the morning that you would like to be in another country in the afternoon, it's totally fine with a Hungarian passport. With a Hungarian passport, you can work and live in Hungary without any extra administration. But also, if you are a dual citizen or if you have multiple citizenship, you don't have any obligations if you don't live here. Hungary allows multiple citizenship, but you should check your own country if they allow you to have another kind of passport, because there are a few countries, for example, Austria or Slovakia, they not allowing dual citizenship, meaning if you would like to become a Hungarian, you have to give up your original passport. This is very, very important, but Hungary doesn't have an issue with dual or even multiple citizenships. Also, Hungary's passport is a very, very strong passport. And I have an extra fun fact about the Hungarian passport. It was voted for one of the most beautiful passports in the world. I don't know about that because I have only Hungarian passport, so I don't have any any comparison next to that. But what about you, Anikó? You have
I
two
know. I
passports.
think that's really interesting. One of the most beautiful
Yeah.
passports. I mean, when I think of a passport, I always sort of, the immediate picture in my head is the cover.
Yeah,
And
but not the cover,
so,
maybe the inside. Maybe they
yeah, I was
never.
about to say, so I think it's the inside. And I mean, I can sort of picture my like Canadian passport or my husband's like British passport from the outside, but yeah, maybe on the inside. Now I feel tempted to go grab my passport and have a look, but I will definitely be checking that out. Now, for me, and I guess I just touched on this, having the passport, it was interesting. One of the reasons I got my passport finally in 2015, because I did start the process originally about 10 years previously. But at that time, I didn't really want to bug my parents. I didn't really quite see as much value in it. I thought it could be something that would be cool to have, but eventually I just found the paperwork a bit overwhelming to deal with on my own and abandoned the procedure. But by 2015, I was married to a British national. And of course, back in 2015, English, UK citizens were still part of the EU, which meant every time my husband and I would go back to England, or if we came to Hungary or to Spain or to anywhere else we were going, as a Canadian, we'd always be separated. We'd end up in two different lines because, of course, he would just whiz through everything with his EU passport. But I would have to stand in the longer line for the, third country nationals, which is the terminology basically that's used for anyone that is not an EU citizen. So, and that's what I would be. So it was all of a sudden became very important for me. And the idea that not only I could have that for obviously just making airport trips or easier, but so that I could live and work. Or what if we wanted to retire here, which was the original plan? What if we just wanted to simply spend, a longer winter vacation on a Spanish island 1 year? I wanted the ability to do that. So having that passport even before we moved here was incredibly helpful. And I think all the time, Vivien, I'm sure you would agree that the world is becoming more international and more flexible in some ways. So having that ability to be able to leave. Now, never mind with the new, out of the ETIAS, how do you say it? ETIAS,
Uh,
EIAS.
yes, yes.
ETIAS. I don't know if anyone has their own pronunciation, but now with that new system now of biometrics, again, being taken from any third country national. I know this system just came into effect in Hungary just a couple of weeks ago, right at the end of November. So now it's even a slightly more laborious procedure for someone from the US or someone from Canada trying to come in, as they have to scan and verify their
Mhm.
identity. So more and more than ever, even if you don't plan to do what I did and start a whole brand new life here, simply having that to make entry easier anywhere in the EU is a huge advantage. So,
Exactly, exactly.
now, I'm just going to ask here. I do have a quick question that maybe we could answer, which this goes back to what I was saying about the address card. And
Yes.
he's saying that his children have an address card. These are kids and at 14. Do they have to wait for the full 8 years to complete?
No, no,
Correct.
no, no.
Yeah.
Children doesn't have to wait under the age of 14. Yeah. I can see the question. Kids doesn't have to wait.
Perfect. So hopefully, Mohammed, that answered your question that your kids can be eligible. Again, as we said afterwards, if anyone has questions, they can email them in. And of course, you can book a private session with Vivien, which I would recommend. I wish that was available when I was first trying to get my citizenship, and then maybe I wouldn't have given up so easily. So, all right, Vivien, could you talk to us a little bit more now?
Of course, we can continue. Okay, as you can hear, the Hungarian citizenship is not just about a beautiful passport and eligibility. You need to actually collect and provide a lot of documents, a lot of information. So it's not a quick process, and challenges may arise during this journey. Let's talk about those now. So the first challenge is that you need documentation, even if you base your application on someone who was born in the 1800s in Hungary. You still need to have documentation. Now, if you just think about it, not every family packing up every family member's birth certificates or marriage certificates or any kind of certificates at home. At least mine doesn't. I don't even know where is my own birth certificate. So, but the required documentation is very, very important to collect, but we can help to collect the documents on the Hungarian side. Anywhere else, it's on you.
Yeah, I think that's very important, Vivian, that exactly that you helpers can help people find those missing documents. So it's not simply about filing the paperwork on their behalf. You can really help with that research.
Exactly. Also, you need to fill out many application forms. Some of the application forms are like 28 pages long. So those are long application forms, and all application form is in Hungarian. If you don't need to speak the language to apply, the application form needs to be in Hungarian. And Anikó, I'm sure that you have experience with that as well.
Yeah, and I just have to put that out there, even though I am a dual citizen and I live here now. Certainly, my Hungarian is much better, but at the time I was applying, that's why it was like for me, I had to do it side by side with my dad because it was even. You think you can use translations, and even with AI translations being better, and helpful in sort of day-to-day life, it's still very bureaucratic language on an application form. I mean, just think about some of the forms you have to fill out in English or your native language. They're still sometimes really difficult to understand. So that's why I think having that guide is really, really important, having that help.
Yeah, and actually we can provide that help as well. If someone wants more information about that, we can let you know on our online consultations. So just to summarize, we can help obtaining the documents, and also we can help with the application forms. And also, since this is not a quick process, we provide help as well during the whole process until you have your Hungarian passport in your hand, which can take you years.
Yes.
If you look at you, Anikó, who doesn't even have to learn the language, it took you years to get your
Yes.
Hungarian
And I mean,
Hungarian
to be
citizenship.
fair, even once I finally got all my documents submitted correctly, it was still about 13 months. And again, now after living here in Hungary for 8 years, it doesn't seem so odd to me. But at the time, too, you sort of submit your paperwork and then you're just, you're like, is something happening? Is it not happening? That sort of compulsion to go like back to the consulate and be like, did something get lost? I'm not hearing anything. Patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to applying for citizenship. And I mean, to be fair, I'm sure that's not a unique experience. I'm sure many countries, have that same sort of delays. But of course, this was my first dual citizenship and my only, obviously, other second citizenship. So having someone to be able to say, either check in for you or to let you know it's totally normal. Hungary will, in fact, let you know if something is wrong or if something is missing. So then you can go back. It won't simply just be refused because you got, a line wrong. So again, that's where it's really great to sort of work in partnership with someone. I know um, if we want to talk like, one of the obstacles, if we talk about my mother for a moment. Do we have time for that now, Vivien, or did you want to
Yes, of
continue?
course. Yes, totally. We have. Actually, there is a good question about how long it takes to get the passport after the submission of the application. It can take like 10 to 14 months after the submission.
Correct. Yeah, and that was definitely, it took like 13 months, I think, for my whole thing to be processed. And then once I got the paperwork, which I think is interesting for some people, and I am actually not sure if it works. This probably doesn't work this way if you do like depending on the type. But for me, because I was considered a Hungarian by birth, I not only sort of became a citizen, I didn't get this traditional folder. I simply got a birth certificate in Hungarian. I got my marriage certificate in Hungarian. So now both my husband and I were legally married in Canada, but we're also legally married here in Hungary. So it sort of recreates your life if you do it by birth, which I mean, it makes sense, but that was a bit surprising to me. And so then with those documents, I was able to apply for my passport, which then is, normal processing times, but then usually adds that 6 weeks or so onto your process. So that was interesting. Actually, maybe since we're talking about recreating my birth certificate, let's talk about that. So, again, as I introduce myself to you, my name is Anikó Woods. Now, Woods is my married last name. My original name is Anikó Legradi. And when I applied for citizenship, uh, they changed my name. They changed the spelling of my name. Now, obviously, Anikó or Anikó in the Hungarian way, they were fine with that name because it's an extremely, popular, if not older, Hungarian name, very traditional name. But I had two middle names. So Teresa Marie, which Hungary no was like, no, you can't have two middle names in Hungary. So we're just like scratching off Marie. And you can't be Teresa, but we'll let you be Teresa. And that wasn't just a matter of pronunciation. That was they spelled it differently. It wasn't, TEA or RCA.
Mhm.
No, it was, TE and had a Z in it. And then finally, my last name, they changed the spelling of. I had a Y at the end of my name, as did my father on his passport, who was sitting beside me at the consulate during the application process. But for whatever reason, they decided, no, that my name now has to be spelled with an I at the end. So I mean, I think it's funny, and I would like to be clear that this has not caused me a single issue in my life, except for me having to remember that if I ever need to write my maiden name in Hungary, I need to spell it with an I, or that my legal name here, I have a different middle name. Uh, the fact that my Canadian passport sort of has my full name on it, you're not using two passports at the same time, so it's not a problem. And I'm sure if I wanted to, maybe I could change it. But I thought that was at the time I thought it was odd. Now I find it even stranger because my sister got her citizenship a year after me, and they didn't change her name at all. So my sister is also living here in Hungary. Now she moved here 2 years after I did, but we spell our last names in a completely different way. So I don't have the same last name as my sister, which the part is weird. So sometimes I feel like the bureaucracy can really come down to the person who's, reviewing your paperwork at the time. But anyway, maybe that's I don't know, maybe that's happened to maybe someone else that happened to, perhaps someone else has heard a story. I know sometimes that people get concerned. I've seen it sort of post where like, they sort of change my name or they won't let me have it. But the fact is, it doesn't cause any issue because my name is my name in Hungary, and that's really all that matters. But that was a definite surprise, I guess. And again, I think something that Vivien, as soon as I told her that story originally, she was like, yes, I've heard about it. So it would have been, if at the time, if I had worked with Vivien, I'm sure it would have been less odd to me to know that, that sometimes this kind of thing can happen. But
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the bureaucracy can be so confusing for someone who doesn't even speak the language,
yes.
and you can also lose your motivation during the process. And that's the most important part, that if you start, it doesn't mean that you finish and you get your Hungarian passport, because maybe you just give up during
Yeah,
the
you're
way.
right. It's the lack of motivation, which certainly happened to me when I originally applied the 10 years before. I was just like, I'm not sure. And I just kind of let it go. Also, though, I think, Vivien, is that you can also waste a lot of money. You know what I mean? Maybe translating documents
Mm-hmm.
or ordering the wrong kinds of documents.
Yeah.
So I think that's also really good to have this, the procedures do change, even from my sister to I, never mind the name thing. But I felt like the forms weren't exactly the same when she applied a couple of years later to when I applied. So really, I mean, this is why I am here with you today, because I just think having someone like Vivien, really, for anyone that's looking, I cannot recommend it enough because it can be confusing, frustrating, a little bit scary, but 100% worth it. So uh, now, I don't know if before we just continue a tiny bit, uh, I know we're getting some very specific questions here in the Q&A, and I think some of those we did answer. How many generations back is recommended to pursue a citizenship? Is there too far back, Vivien?
There is no recommended generation back. Actually, there is no limit. So as long as we or you can find documentation, just go ahead.
Yeah, and I
Actually,
think that is.
we have a case now where we are tracing back an ancestor back to the 1700s. So actually, there is no limit.
So there's no limit as long as you can prove that bloodline.
Yeah, as long as you can prove, there is no limit. But obviously, the recommended is just don't go back until I don't know, the beginning of the 1800s, because if you think about the evaluation of the bureaucracy, maybe if someone who was born in the beginning of the 1800s doesn't have a specific birth certificate or baptism record or something, comparing to someone who was born in the 1900s. So there is no record or no registered birth back then if you go back like to the 1700s. It's not impossible, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it is really challenging. And I mean, that is, I think, the exact circumstance that happened to my mother. So when in that sort of early 2000s, where it made sense to apply for Hungarian citizenship, I mean, obviously, after the Berlin Wall fell and it was no longer a communist country, I think that's when that first, bunch of us started applying. That in my mother's case, because she was born in a refugee camp on the border of Austria and Hungary, it was just proving very, very difficult to prove it, right? And I think you've had some of that before, Vivien, too, where you've
Yes.
had some of these refugee issues where people can't prove. So my mother, no matter how hard she tried, even though she could sort of prove her mother, and beyond for for hundreds of years being Hungarian citizen, she was not able to obtain that document. So my mother ended up getting her Hungarian citizenship by marriage through my father, which again thought was kind of funny. But it worked for her. So she was able to be, after the 10 years of being married to a Hungarian abroad and passing her language test, which I mean, clearly she had been speaking Hungarian since she was born, so it wasn't much of a challenge for her. She was able to get her citizenship. So I think it's interesting sometime. And that was sort of great advice. Again, with Vivien, is sometimes there can be another way. Maybe if one path isn't perfect, looking at someone else, because my mom was sort of ready to give up. She was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not trying to chase everything down by myself anymore. But because of the help, we were like, hey, why don't we just take the shortest path and simply do it by being married to a Hungarian. So my mother had a proper oath ceremony. She has, her documents. And again, living back here in Hungary. So for those who haven't read much of my story, which you can find on Hungarian citizenship.eu, which is Helper's dedicated citizenship website. If you head over to the blog there, you can read my writing all about myself, my story, my sister, my mother, and how all of us are living back here in Hungary now. I have a few other blog posts on there as well. And of course, there's all kinds of very valuable information, much beyond just my personal stories you can access. Vivien.
And since you are mentioning our website, on the Hungarian citizenship.eu, you can find a free eligibility test for the ones who are not sure that they are eligible for Hungarian citizenship or not. And also, after, if you find out that you are eligible, on an online consultation, we can figure out the best option for you, how you can apply for Hungarian citizenship. And from there, it's up to you if you want us to guide you through the process or you try it alone. Because it's
Yes.
definitely possible to do it alone, as you did, Anikó, as well. However, it took you a few years.
Yeah, I think that is a good point because I do have people ask me that all the time. Like, can I just do it by myself? 100%. If you want to try it and do it by yourself, you can. I think this is like anything. If you have the Hungarian language skills already, because again, the paperwork is in Hungarian. But if you want to find those documents, I think it's kind of like sometimes, you have people that like to work with real estate agents because they help you and guide you along the process and make sure everything is legal and don't waste your time, looking at all kinds of properties or, it's kind of like buying a used bike or something in Facebook Marketplace. Like how many scammy things or how much time are you going to waste or how much time do you have to dedicate? So I know for some people, they have the time and they have the willingness and they can do it. But for most people, or for many people, I think it makes sense to work with someone like Helpers. Again, Helpers has been around here in Hungary for over 20 years working on these cases. This is not a new company. So if you're only hearing about Helpers because you followed me for the first time, Helpers itself not only has their citizenship division, but they also have a very large immigration division and a finance division. And that is the huge difference compared to some other companies or consultants out there, because even on the citizenship side, they have immigration lawyers that they can talk to. So if you are someone that's maybe living here already, or maybe you're trying to switch from one of your residency permits to a citizenship, or now you've gotten married and you want to see, Helpers absolutely has the expertise to answer all of those questions.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and I think if you caught my webinar last week, I was with one of their immigration lawyers on that with Anna. She was fabulous. So you can always catch that on Zoom. If you didn't see that and want to know more about residency, you can go back and watch that on the Helpers Hungary across their socials and on their YouTube channel. And of course, this webinar will be available on YouTube in the next couple of days as well. So you can put us on repeat if you missed something during the call.
All right, what do you think, Anikó? Can we move on?
Absolutely. Let's go forward.
All right, let's see the last challenge that many of you will see in your citizenship journey, the Hungarian language. I don't want to talk about it as like Hungarian, it's an impossible language to learn. It's not true, but I can understand that it's scary for many of you. But let's talk about that, how much Hungarian you need to learn to actually become Hungarian. So first, there is an interview level, which means for the ones who has ancestry in Hungary and they are basing the application on an ancestor who was born here a long time ago, they have to go to a citizenship interview. On the interview, the official communication is that you have to be on a B2 level, on a conversational level in Hungarian, which is actually true, but in the real life, you just need to be uh, understand the questions, and also you need to be able to reply to the questions. But what kind of questions will the counsel or the administrator will ask you on the interview? It's all about you and your family. So they might ask, where do you live? Why do you want to become a Hungarian citizen? About your grandparents, great grandparents, or even great great grandparents, or if you have any kind of hobbies, do you have any family, are you planning to do what in the next 5 or 10 years in Hungary. You don't have to overcomplicate the answers, because they are only just measuring that if you are understanding enough Hungarian to become a Hungarian citizen. So it's not about learning all the colors and the Hungarian and the animals' names in Hungarian. It's about learning specifically about your family and about yourself. And also in the interview, there is a few sentences that you have to write in a Hungarian in front of the Hungarian consul. So you need to practice that as well. Also, for the ones who doesn't have any Hungarian relation, they were just living here. They just don't have to speak Hungarian. They have to even do an exam. It's called the constitutional exam, which is in Hungarian. But also you need to learn a little bit about Hungary's history and about Hungary, and you need to pass the exam. And after that, you will also have a citizenship interview, and you will need to be able to speak with the administrator or with the Hungarian council. There are many confusion about this, that if there is any age limit or something who doesn't need to speak Hungarian, only children under 6 doesn't have to speak Hungarian. Everyone else has to speak some of Hungarian. So it's a unfortunately. And also, if you are planning to move to Hungary, it's highly recommended to speak more, not just about your family, because maybe in bigger cities you will be good to go to the post office or to the grocery store or even buy a home without any Hungarian knowledge. But if you go to smaller cities or even to the countryside, Hungarian is very, very useful. I don't know, what do you think about this, Anikó?
One, yes. So, first of all, thank you for that, because I do think that's something that people need to understand, and I want to touch back about a couple of those things. But that's right. I think there is Budapest, and then there is the rest of Hungary. And certainly, when the further you get away from the city center, the less English fluency there definitely is. I think even sometimes too, this can depend generationally. So if you're even in the city center and you're trying to do something that might have a lot of older people working in it, and uh, sometimes like that could be, I'm just trying to think, like in the grocery stores or even some of the government offices that might have older employees, even though you think maybe you're in a government office, maybe it would be different. It can depend. So even in the city, you are definitely not guaranteed in English speakers. And in the countryside, definitely essential to be able to learn some sort of Hungarian. And I mean, this makes sense, and why wouldn't you? But for some people who might be more used to Spain or the Netherlands or somewhere where the penetration of English speakers, especially in tourist area, is high, even here in tourist areas, it's not as high as you would think. And I think when I looked up the numbers a little while ago, I think it was something like 36% or somewhere around that of Hungarians speak English. So, and that's everyone. So, as you can see, that is definitely not even half. Yeah, so, it's helpful to learn how to speak Hungarian. Now, I say this with the confidence of someone who did not have to speak Hungarian to get my citizenship. So I do know, of course, it's a challenging language, but it isn't quite as scary as everyone makes it sound. Yes, it's a different language, and therefore, maybe it's not as easy to learn as French. But I mean, how many of us have learned French either? So, the dedication that you put in, and like I said, at Vivien said, at the interview letter, it will be stuff about you. So it's the kind of things you should be able to talk about. And you will need to write simply. Now, I did have a question, Vivien, because you said in the constitutional exam, my understanding was that if you were over 60, you didn't have to take the constitutional exam.
It's over 65, and you're right, you don't have to do the constitutional exam, but you still need to prove your language skills
Yes, you
on the
still need to be
interview.
able to, sort
Yeah,
of write that little paragraph. You still need to be able to somewhat effectively communicate, but you don't
exactly.
necessarily need to take the written test. So I
Exactly.
think somebody asked about that here as well. In which cases is someone exempted from the exam? So again, that was Renato. So hopefully that helped answer it. To be clear, the exemption is really on just the exam itself, not exempt from Hungarian altogether. So I hope that was helpful. And I think people do, most people do want to speak Hungarian. Even my British husband, who never spoke any second language before moving here, even he has learned his basic phrases. So at least he can be polite and friendly and somewhat helpful to himself if he was ever, lost or in a situation. But the more complicated processes, even then I will need help with if I need to fight it out with a utility company. But I would probably need help for that in Canada as well. Some of those things are just confusing no matter what language they're happening in. Now, what kind of support can you give people in regards to the test? Is that something I know, what can you help them with in this final sort of the interviews, the naturalization the
Mhm.
constitutional exam. Is there some way you help support people, Vivien, in that as well?
Yes, we definitely do. Actually, we are working together with the language school who are actually preparing people only for the citizenship interview. So if you want to learn only about yourself and about your family and about the basic sentences, that is totally fine. We have a solution for that, but we can also recommend a few language school who can teach you in Hungarian, even online, because let's be honest, how many Hungarian language school do you have in Canada, for example?
Yeah.
Just let's be honest. So
Yeah.
most of the language schools are online, but we can send you some recommendations if you would like to
So
learn.
that's great because yeah, I think it's really good to have the recommendations, especially for someone getting citizenship. Because you're right, sometimes there's like, you're going to need that specific vocabulary to help you with the exam, as opposed to the vocabulary if you were just planning to spend time here as a tourist. So I think that's very
Yeah.
helpful to people.
Yeah, there is a difference, and also on the citizenship interviews, you don't have to be fluent. The consul or the administrator knows that Hungarian is not your first language, and we all know that it's not the easiest language. So it's not about fluency; it's about the understanding and the will to learn to speak Hungarian.
Correct, correct. And that's important to remember. Uh, I see there's a couple of questions here. And that's just a quick one because I know this will be easy for you to answer, Vivien. Is Zen was asking if you are applying in Hungary, are there any requirements that you need to remain in Hungary while your application is being processed?
No,
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 of course not. As we
of
said
course not.
before, it's going to be like at least a year, so probably best that you don't hang around. Although I would definitely encourage it if you could stay. But to do that, then you would definitely need to speak to the helpers team on the immigration side to legally stay in Hungary while it was being processed. And to be clear, it doesn't make a difference. It is no faster, is it, if you're applying from abroad or applying?
No, no.
Yeah. So there's no difference. There's no advantage to doing. I don't even.
Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, there is no difference because even the Hungarian consulate and the government office sending to the same authority the applications, and there is a person who is reviewing the cases one by one. So
Yeah,
it's not easier if you apply here in
correct. So
Hungary.
it can make a difference. Sometimes we've heard some differences between the application processes at the various consulates in North America, at least. I know that, like, there's Toronto, and people talk a lot about Toronto, and people talk a lot about the office in LA as well. And there can be differences between those consulates at different times. And I know, Vivien, that's something you and I have talked about at times, but ultimately, all the paperwork arrives here in Hungary in the same office and just gets done in order.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, the process and the required documentation is the same everywhere. The person itself at the consulate is usually different, or the workaround they do at different consulates. But at the end of the day, you need to submit all the required documentation, the required translation, and if you need to speak the language, they will measure it. Actually, one more thing about the language. If they are not sure in your Hungarian on the citizenship interview, they might call you on the phone after the citizenship interview to, do a little small talk in Hungarian just to make sure that you learn the language. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were I thought you were continuing there. So that's it.
No.
So there could be like a follow-up phone call, right? From
Yeah.
Hungary to just make sure. So some people could be, don't be surprised if all of a sudden someone calls you from Hungary. I
Yeah.
wonder how many people miss those phone calls because I know if I was in Canada and then like a strange number from overseas.
Actually, this is a good point. But if you're applying for Hungarian citizenship and the Hungarian number is calling you, maybe you answer it, or it's highly
Yes.
recommended to answer.
Yeah. So again, +36 is the area code for Hungary. So
Exactly.
if you have already applied and you see that number come up, it is, yeah, it's probably in your oh, I don't know what I was trying to say there. Best interest
Yeah.
to answer the phone call. So, but one thing you said there that we didn't talk about too much were the translations. And of course, there is certain documentation that requires translations. And that's something you can help with as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's not enough if you translate the required documentation at home with Google Translate or with ChatGPT. All the translations has to be certified, and
Yes.
that's what we can help with. Yeah.
Okay, so you can help with those certified translations. I've also heard, sometimes people get things translated, pay for their translations, but they didn't really need to have them translated. So again, I think that's where, you can help and advise people what translations really need to be translated.
Mhm. Actually, this is a different thing in the consulates because some of the consulates are not requiring as many translations as the others, but we are always preparing or try to prepare bulletproof applications. So you have everything. Maybe you have one or two extra translation, which is included in one package, so we don't charge an extra for more translations. And yeah, that's how you
Yeah,
can
so that's
submit
really
your
good to know
bulletproof
then.
application.
So
Yeah.
you default because it can, before, of course, it arrives on the one person's desk here in Hungary, it has to make it through the first of the consulate.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to look at it. Exactly. Those bulletproof applications, make
Yeah.
sure everything's translated, it's all done certified. That way there is nothing to catch people out. No, I think that's,
Yeah.
and of course, uh, you have that sort of inside track on some of the different procedures at the various consulates, which is always nice that you can advise. Now, I do see that there are some questions, and I'm so sorry, everyone, that we couldn't get them all done. I see some people here. I have a residence permit. I relocated here. What's the procedure for me? Again, as we talked about it, it all comes down to having your plastic address card. It can be 11 years if you don't have any other relations to Hungary, so it can be quite a long road. Some of these questions, more than happy to, again, you can write into the citizenship team. Some of them, if you simply go to HungarianCitizenship.eu, you can take that free eligibility test, which will be your first indicator. You can contact Vivien, book that private consultation with her. She is working all the way up to Christmas and then taking consultations, of course, in the new year because us Hungarians like to take Hungary Christmas very seriously here. So we'll be mostly shut down between Christmas and the New Year, but certainly there's plenty of time to book the time to speak to her and get some of those questions answered. Like Carol, how can I find out if my grandfather lost his citizenship? My mother told me back, he always entered with his Canadian passport. So again, that's something that Vivien can handle. That being said, my father also always entered with his Canadian passport until he moved here. I think there was a logic for him, even though he still had his Hungarian one. He just felt like the rest of the family was coming in with their Canadian. He'd come in on his Canadian one and leave on his Canadian one. So that's not even necessarily an indicator that your grandfather, one way or the other, that he would have lost his citizenship or not.
No, it's not. It's
And
not depending on that, but that's why we were talking about that every case is different, and it's not like black and white. It's not like yes or no. So I have no idea if Carol's grandpa
yeah,
lost
we'd
his
have to check.
citizenship either. But on a consultation, we can cover that where we ask as many information as you have. and we try to figure out the best way to get your
Yeah.
Hungarian
And
citizenship.
it is a bit different than Canada. Hungary does, so when I go back to Canada, Canada requires me to have a valid Canadian passport and I must enter Canada on that
Oh, I
passport.
see.
Hungary does not require that, does it?
Um,
If I'm a citizen, I don't have to. I mean, obviously, I live here, so I'd be ridiculous not to. But back in the days when I was just coming as a tourist, it's not an obligation. I think the same way that it is like in the U.S. or Canada.
no, no, it's
So
not.
again, there's not a lot of downside to there's no military service, there's no tax obligation, there's no requirement, you know what I mean, to keep it updated or be forced to use it upon entry. You can have multiple citizenships. So really, or you can be like me, like I said, and you can change your whole life and end up living here and starting businesses and enjoying the beautiful dual life that I lead between the countryside and the capital city here in Budapest. What do you think, Vivian? Is there any final words? I want to make sure we don't go over our time. It's Christmas, everyone is busy. Is there anything final you'd like to sort of say?
Actually, just I would like to add one more thing. First and foremost, thank you everyone for being here. And also, if you think that I am the only one who is working on citizenship cases, don't be fooled by that. We have an amazing team, and there is actually 5 people who is working together on every citizenship case. So we are there to help you. We have the capacity to help you. So to just feel free to reach out to us with
That is
any
a good
kind of
point.
questions.
Yes, I did make it seem like Vivian was going to be your personal concierge, but there is in fact a whole team.
Maybe
And
I
like
will be, but maybe someone else.
yeah, exactly. There is a whole team available, and and as I said, I feel like the huge advantage with helpers is because of that immigration and the citizenship. Because sometimes it's like your spouse that's applying for citizenship, but because they got their citizenship, now you want to come and live with them. So helpers can also now take it to the next step and help you with your family reunification, residency permits, etc. All of that can be done. And then if you're crazy like me and decide to come and live here, Helpers has a finance division, which can then help you with company setup, with taxes, with all of that kind of stuff. So, really, it is that sort of one stop team that can help you all the way through your journey and make it as complete as you want it to be. So, again, stay tuned tomorrow. Tomorrow, yes, Vivian, they'll get an email from your team.
In the next few days, let's say.
Let's say in the next few days. This will be up again on YouTube. Thanks everyone for coming. I am Anikó Woods of howtohungary.com. If you want to read more about my life here, you can head over there. Thank you to Vivian for joining us here today. I'm sure we're going to do another session in the new year. So you can tell your friends, or maybe you're further along in your journey and you want to hear what's new. But thank you everyone for coming. Vivian, I will toss the final word over to you if you'd like to say goodbye to everyone.
Yes, so just thank you and goodbye and have a nice holidays to everyone.
Yes, happy holidays, Boldog Karacsony, and we will
Boldog
see
karácsony,
you
exactly.
in in the new year. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.